Well, good morning, Monday, December 1st. We're to the last month of 2025. It's a crazy wordy there. Um, Today, I want to talk about a few different things. I'm going to start with my trip to New York City. So, this is something I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time, and well, since I've been there anyway. Um, it was an eye opener. It truly was. Going from Europe, and then the first place you go is Newark, New Jersey. I was like, holy cow. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Newark, New Jersey was the scariest place that we went to the whole time. I say scary, I wasn't necessarily scared, but you had this uneasy feeling like, I, I shouldn't be walking around down here. And it's just sad that we have places in the United States that are like that. It's sad. There's no reason with our Constitution, with our law and order that we have in place, that we have communities that are like that. And the sad thing is we have big cities like Chicago that are like that, Portland that are like that. And that's honestly, that's sad. It's truly sad. But let me tell you about New York City. So I first want to start out with, that was my first time and going to New York City. And the city itself was awesome. The skyscrapers are just like the movies depict it to be, just like you see in pictures. Pictures, of course, never do anything justice. It's a beautiful skyline. The people that I ran into and talked to were very, very kind, very generous. I talked to some firefighters. I talked to some police officers. Um, Talked to a couple business owners that owned a couple little shops down in the downtown Manhattan area. Talked to some of the staff at Trump Tower. Talked to a couple people in Times Square just passing by, and I think that was about it. I talked to a couple people at Ground Zero as well. One was an employee that worked there, then the others were just tourists. So I talked to several people when I was in New York City, and I just had like basic questions. A few of them had been there the whole life. A few had only been there a couple years. But I'm going to tell you, this recent election, and unfortunately the timing that I went there was just horrendous. I went there 2 days after the election. So when I went there, first I want to start off with saying, when I went to Ground Zero, there were parts of it I couldn't even, like, I had to just turn and walk away. You get goosebumps, teary-eyed. I'm an emotional guy. And so it was just hard. It was hard to see. Like, what got me was that they have a part of the museum that has like notes that kids had drawn, pictures that they had drawn. Some were their parents were killed in the tower. They lost their mom, they lost their dad as a firefighter or something like that. And then they would show like the drawing of the kid drew, like, a week later saying, hey daddy, I miss you, come home, you're our hero, or things like that. It's like, yeah, that was hard to read, hard to see. But I say that to say this: how on God's green earth does that happen in that city, and then we have an election like that? Like, how would you allow that to happen in the same city that crap happened in? That blew my mind. I came out of there, I'm like, there is no way. How would that happen? It doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense to me. How could you have such a tragedy in that city to turn around and have an election like that and elect that guy? I digress on that, but you get what I'm saying. So I'm not going to mention names because I know exactly what that does, and I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to destroy somebody else's life or their career or anything like that. But I am here to share with you some of the conversations that I was able to have. So I talked to a couple of firefighters. I was asking one, what's the significance of this election? Is this all just fake news? Is this all propaganda? What does it really look like being here in New York and as a firefighter in New York, Lower Manhattan? And he told me, he says, honestly, our chief has put in his letter for early retirement because he doesn't want to work with said elected official. I'm like, really? He said, yeah. And he said, and we've also had some battalion leaders put their letter of resignation in. Keep in mind, working for the fire department in New York City is oftentimes referred to as like the most prestigious job to have as a firefighter. I know some would argue, they want to go work in the mountains, they want to go put out wildfires in California, whatever. But in general, generally speaking, the working in New York City as a firefighter is like the job, right? And to be the chief is like the job, right? So then I went and fact checked it and looked it up to see if there was anything on there or whatever. And yeah, sure enough, there was the chief had put in his. I was like, okay, that's realistic. Gotcha. So then I went and talked to a security guard / police officer, because it's different down there. Like they have police, but a lot of the police that are in like lower Manhattan are like on foot patrol basically, or on bikes. And so I talked to a couple of them, and they were telling me the same thing, that a lot of their leaders and their co-workers were resigning because they refused to work with elected officials. So that's scary when you think about that you have all these people in these high-ranking positions that are walking away. That's scary. And the reason I have such a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to New York City is, we were walking. So we get out of the train at Madison Square Garden, Penn Station, right? They're like next door to each other. And we get out, and we go to the Empire State Building, then we go grab a slice of pizza. And we go, okay, we want to go to Ground Zero. Well, we see it's like an hour walk. And I was like, it's like 1.1 miles, but it's going to take like an hour to get there walking. And so let's just walk. I want to walk. I want it so we can stop at all these shops on the way. And so that's what we did. We decided to walk. On that walk is when I started seeing things that it infuriated me, to be honest with you. So we walked by this big, beautiful church on the way to Ground Zero. And there's a bunch of pride flags and Black Lives Matters flags hanging all over this church. Mind you, I just came from Europe, where they love Jesus. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, the punishment you would receive for doing something like that over there. I couldn't even fathom trying to go hang a pride flag at the Vatican. Like, I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't even fathom trying to attempt to do that. But we have people here that just feel like it's a free-for-all, and they try to cover it up with, well, it's my freedom of speech. No, it's not. That's vandalism. You're vandalizing a church. Not to mention, in that sanction, they don't agree with those things. So now you're force-feeding it on them. Do they force-feed it to you? Now, people argue, well, we try to put Christianity in government. I think we try to use the morals of Christianity in government so we can keep our moral values where they need to be. I've never seen a policy roll out saying mandatory you go to church every Sunday, mandatory you do Bible study every day, mandatory we put this in schools. But I do see people trying to force pride flags in schools and force that agenda in our public education system. A lot of teachers and stuff. I've actually, to this day, I still have not spoken to a teacher that agrees with the curriculum that they have to teach. I have still yet to meet one teacher that has said, yeah, no, I love the curriculum. It's perfect. We execute it flawlessly. The kids seem to like it. There's a lot of learning that goes on. We do extremely well in my class. No, I've never hear that. I always hear about the politics and how they have to walk on eggshells because they have 2 or 3 coworkers. And in some schools, they're like the one of only 2 or 3, and the rest are like this, where they can't even voice their opinion because they'll get fired, they'll get terminated, they'll get suspended because they're going to be bigoted, they're going to be racist, small-minded, whatever. That's the culture that we have in our public schools now. Back to New York City. And so it was extremely disheartening to see that in New York City, where 9/11 took place, we have lost our moral compass completely. And it's not us. We've allowed other people to come in to destroy the moral compass. And you can see that when you're there. I thought going into New York City, I was like, man, brace yourself. These people are brash. They're bold. They're kind of rude, but they're not trying to be rude. It's just kind of how they communicate. And I was like, okay, well, here we go. It just is what it is. I'm not going to get in a fist fight. I'm not going to punch anybody. It's just the way they talk. No, I didn't. And you could kind of see it, with how they communicate, but it wasn't near as. So here's what I found out. People from the Northeast or New York City try really, really hard to make you know that they're from there, and they overdo the impersonation of being from New York City, because when you go there, they actually don't act like what the people that you meet that say they're from there. So you get what I'm saying? It's like meeting somebody. So I'm from Kansas, grew up on a farm. You know, like, I mean, you change it up a little bit, get a little twang to you to exaggerate where you're from, be country boy, right? It's kind of like that. They over exaggerate where they are from. It's like, just chill out, calm down. I went down there. They don't act like that. Chill out. You're being an a-hole just to be one, and then you're going to cover it up with, oh, I'm from New York City. It's how we talk. No, it's not. So that was an eye opener for me as well. It's just talk, because I talk to a bunch of people everywhere I go. My wife will tell you I just talk to everybody, and I didn't run into it, not a single time, not one single time. And I talked to numerous people. The pace of the city I enjoyed. I like to move or get out of my way. That's my jam. I can get along with that. Even on the sidewalks, had there's like painted on the sidewalk saying, like, if you stop, move over. Like, I can't remember exactly what it said. Basically, it said, like, this is for moving. If you're not moving, get out of the way. And I was like, yeah, I can get along. I wish all of our sidewalks had that. I wish the sidewalks in Rome had that. If anybody been to Rome, Italy? Holy cow. It'd take you an hour and a half to walk a mile, but it has nothing to do with the terrain. It had to do with all the congestion and the traffic. People are stopping, people are taking pictures, and you're kind of like just getting through it. It was chaotic. But anyway, so I enjoyed the pace of the city, the skyline. We walked Central Park. It just smelled like cat pee. I don't know if there's like a bunch of homeless people in there. I know they have a rat problem. We saw some rats running around, like rats like that big, like big rats. Maybe, I don't know. It was just kind of gross. But the park was kind of pretty. It was fall, so the trees looked pretty. But like the park itself, I don't know. I feel like that used to be a really cool, awesome, thriving city at one point, but when I went there, the vibe of the city was just not what I thought it was going to be. I thought, I've been to a lot of cities, a lot of metro. I've been to a lot of places, a lot of different other countries, cities, and so when I was going into it, I was thinking it was going to be a lot like an LA, but fast paced, very, very busy, but very fast. LA is slow. And it wasn't, it was fast, but it was just, the vibe was not, and maybe because I went there right after the election. So maybe, my trip was a little skewed because of the people were still kind of feeling the emotions, from the election. But, I didn't like the vibe, and I didn't feel scared or anything. That was in Newark, New Jersey. That place, wow, there's no way. I don't care what the money is. There is no way I would ever live there. No way. But New York City, if they would clean it up, it'd be a pretty cool place to go live. It'd be a pretty cool place to go thrive. But there is no way in Hades I'd be going there now. No way. Which is sad. It really is. We built this, powerhouse of a city where we got our stock market. We have all these skyscrapers. It's a concrete jungle. And you walk around it and you're like, wow, this place it's dingy. It's dirty. It kind of reminded me of New Orleans. And I liked New Orleans food. The food was delicious in New Orleans. The people were fantastic, super, super nice. But the city itself was dirty. It was stinky. It was very dingy. And it reminded me of that, which I was not expecting. New Orleans, I expected that going into it. I've seen enough pictures and documentaries and talked to enough people from there that I kind of knew what I was walking into. New York City, I expected some homeless because any big city has them, but it wasn't even dirty from the homeless. It was just dirty in general. Like the people just don't take care of it. Type, you know what I mean? Like, that makes sense. My wife and I both looked at each other and like, yeah, I don't need to come back here. Like, we did our best to knock out everything we'd want to do in New York City and get the heck out of town. So that's what we did. I enjoyed the trip. I'm glad I went. I just don't need to go again. It wasn't my cup of tea. I would go for like a work trip or a business trip or something like that. I'm not going to boycott it, but I don't need to go back there. It's just not for me. and maybe when there's different leadership and it's a different vibe, and they can clean it up a little bit and make it thrive again, maybe I'll change that. But as we sit here today, I'm good on that. Not to mention, it's December 1st and it's going to be 84 degrees today. Woke up, it was like 69, went to the gym. I'm going to have a hard time moving anywhere where it's not just beautiful. And that's why we moved here. That's why I moved here. So, pardon me, I'm going to get me a sip of water here. So anyway, I wanted to talk. That was my New York City trip. Wonderful time. Don't ever want to go again. So the other thing I really wanted to talk about is I saw this thing, and maybe you guys are more familiar with it than I am. It's newer to me. It's called nanobots. Nanobots is it's a newer technology. It's not brand new. It's something that even the United States have invested in the nanotechnology. Nano is a measurement, like inches, meters, nano. Nano is microscopic. So nanobots they're using, or starting to try to use, they're testing it in Sweden right now. They inject these nanobots into your bloodstream, and they go, and it's basically they're like little tiny robots, and they go through your bloodstream, and they clean out any blockages you may have, any cholesterol buildup that you may have, and it only does it in a few minutes. It's quick, and it obviously your risk of a heart attack or any cardiovascular issues goes down significantly because it keeps everything clean and clear. So they're using this, and they're also using it for cancer treatment. I think they've used it for, it's 12 different types of cancer at this point. They're obviously still expanding it, but it would go like to the tumor site, and tumors in your body are very acidic. And so they have like these, sensors, and when it senses a certain acidity level, they'll start going to work. Or they can manually control these things, like the doctor can control these things as well from outside and just have it go to work, whatever. So it's really, really cool technology. But here's the thing that just upsets me. We don't use it in the United States. And I understand it's in the test trial. But why aren't we testing it here in the United States? You know how many people are out of radiation treatments that are now, what I refer to, you turn into a guinea pig at that point. You turn into a test rat. And we just start testing things to see what works. And sometimes it works. And sometimes, unfortunately, it doesn't. But why aren't we using that to test here? Why is, we know this is newer technology. We know it's effective. We know it's working. We're just going through the test phase. So far, to this point, they've had 0 failures with this thing. So why aren't we testing it here? But we want to hand out Ozempic like it's candy, and we'll prescribe that all day long for something it hasn't even been approved to be used as. It's being used as a weight loss drug, and it has not been approved to be used as a weight loss drug. Has not been approved, but we prescribe that like candy. And I'm just gonna say it. It just is what it is. So I had a house in a small town, and I paid a guy to come to town to fix the house. And because it was a little bit of a drive, he just went there and he stayed at the house. He just set up a camp at the house, and we had the utilities on at least. And so he just stayed there and worked on the house all that whole week. Took him a week, knocked it out, and went home. The dude calls me on day one. He went to the store to grab something or whatever. And he calls me like, dude, why do these people look so scary? I'm like, what? I was like, oh, a lot of these people are on Ozempic. He's like, what the hell is Ozempic? So then I had to go down that route. I mean, I'm going to tell you guys, it does not make you look good. You don't look healthy. You look freaky. You look scary. You look fragile. Stop with the Ozempic. Just stop. And I don't understand how do our doctors prescribe this? But when we have something that's possibly curing cancer, we don't even use that in our tests. We won't test that here. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I need somebody to come in and make that make sense. Not to mention the little jab, the little COVID stuff. They pushed that on us, and that wasn't even, we just sped right on through that, and we just pushed that out, and we see what the side effects look like now. For the people that went and got all these vaccines for the COVID, and I know of a handful of people, and I just in my little network, I know a handful of people that are still having effects from the COVID vaccine. From the vaccine, not COVID, from the vaccine that supposedly was going to help not for you not to get flu or COVID or whatever. It's the same thing, flu and COVID. It's like, it's just a sickness. It's just a cold. But we freaked out and we wanted to treat it like it was the next coming of SARS or whatever. And it's like, no. Obviously, if you have underlying health conditions, the flu is dangerous to get. COVID's anything is dangerous. Any sickness is dangerous if you have immune issues or if you have underlying illness issues. Yeah, any illnesses are going to be an issue for you. But they use that as a tactic. And it breaks my heart that we live in a world that we use sickness and medicine as a political agenda. That breaks my heart that we've come to that point. It warms my heart to know that we pointed it out, we called it out, they've been identified, but it doesn't have to be like that. It shouldn't be like that. It really shouldn't. I don't understand this blue hates red, red hates blue. Like, I don't like evil. I know people in my life that are very conservative, and I also know people in my life that are very liberal. And I like both sets of people because we can coexist. But there is a massive difference between being a conservative and being violent and being a liberal and being violent. I don't support violence. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. I don't support it. I don't agree with taking somebody else's life because they disagree with you. I don't agree with that. Like this New York City mayor, I despise that guy, but I would never want somebody to go kill him. You know, I don't want him assassinated. Like, I don't think that's the right answer. I think we need to do a better job as Americans of protecting our country, protecting our values, protecting our moral compass, and holding up our Constitution. I think we need to do a better job as that. But I don't like the guy, but I don't necessarily think he should die. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's most people on that are conservatives. You know, we don't really wish people death. Like, this is not who we are. I may not like you. You may not agree with your political agenda, but we don't need to go kill people over that. We can just agree to disagree. We can do a better job at electing people. We can do a better job at educating people. And so, yeah. The last thing I want to talk about, I'm going to keep talking about this, is our public education system sucks. It's horrible. It's horrendous. So I was talking to a retired teacher yesterday, actually, after church. And I was talking to her, and she was telling me that she wouldn't even send her kids to public school today. With the way public schools are now, she would not send kids to public. Now, this is somebody that spent over 30 plus years in child education. And she turned around and says, yeah, I wouldn't send my kid there. I don't understand you have life, we have careers, but then we have a public education system that does not set you up to live life and go have a career. They set you up to go be a robot, to go be a puppet. The way it's ran, the way it's organized, the expectation that boys are supposed to sit down and just be quiet. Like, that's not boys. Like, what are we doing? That's not boys. And, and I go to business meetings all the time with owners and CEOs that have ADD, ADHD, scatterbrain, going a million miles an hour, and they're extremely successful. They don't need to sit there like this to be successful, right? Everybody learns different. And, I just could not disagree more with our public education system. I was talking to some people on our cruise boat. One of our waiters was from the Philippines, and he spoke very good English. And I was asking him, like, hey, where did you learn to speak English? That's something that you just, like, was that on the cruise boat? Like, did you have to take a class because you wanted to work on a cruise boat? But what? And he said, no, they start teaching English in kindergarten. That's when they start teaching English in the Philippines. I was like, oh. He said most Philippines can speak fluent English, which just surprised me. But it goes to show they are setting up their own citizens to go be successful, because they also understand that the Philippines is broke. There's not a lot of money to be made in the Philippines. A lot of the money is in a handful of people's pockets. The rest of the people are just crumbles, right? And to have that embedded into your education system allows their citizens to then go out and be successful. We don't have an education system that's designing our kids to go be successful. We have parents that guide their kids to go be successful above the education system. It's not the education system making kids successful. And I think it's gross that we even allow pride flags in schools, that we allow transgenders in schools, that we allow any of that. It's just, that's gross. School is school. It's for education. In my personal opinion, we should all just have school uniforms. Every school should have its own dress code, uniform. This is what you wear every day. Because it takes the bullying out of the picture. It takes the transgender out of the picture. Here we are. And because you're there to learn. You're there to be educated. You're there to go learn for the rest of your life. You're not there to go start a movement, or, start a riot, or protest, or stir up political stuff. You're there to learn the basic principles and the fundamentals of education, so you can then try to turn that into go be successful. That is what you are there for. We have lost sight of that. And just in the last week, I saw 2 different football coaches for child pornography, or trying to solicit minors, and one went to go meet a girl. These are people in our education system. Here's the problem. They've been in our education system for a long time. It is just now we're getting to a point with media and how people like you, like me, develop a platform and just tell you, hey, this is what's going on. This is what happened. And now it's getting out. Now it's oh, crap. Oh, this is a problem. Yeah. California alone has over $4 billion wrapped up in lawsuits. Their public school system is going bankrupt. In the state of California, it's going bankrupt because of all the sexual lawsuits that are going on in their public education system. It's a massive, massive, massive issue. Sean Ryan had a guy on the show. I think his name was Ryan Montgomery, if I remember right. It's the same guy he just interviewed about the Minecraft and the Roblox and stuff like that, which, by the way, if you haven't watched that, go check that out. That's a phenomenal interview. But it was the first interview he did when he was talking about sex trafficking. And I'm going to tell you, I don't care if your town has 500 people in it. You have pedophiles in your town. You have perverts in your town. It's not a matter of this is not a big city issue. This is a United States of America issue, because we just turn and look the other way. We don't protect our kids very well in this country. And I say that with a grain of salt, because we do protect our kids much better than a lot of other countries, but we have the ability to protect our kids at a much higher level, and we just choose not to. That's when I say we don't protect them very well, because we could be doing a lot more for our kids, education-wise, protecting-wise. And I think, if I remember right, Ryan Montgomery put in a group chat, hi. He was pretending to be a 14-year-old girl, and within 3 minutes, a 41-year-old guy was messaging back, hey, what are you up to? What do you, I wanted to have a conversation. What the hell is a 41-year-old guy talking to a 14-year-old girl? That is disgusting. That is gross. They did some sting operations, and they even did them in these small towns of 1,200 people, and arrested 20 people in 2 days. Think about that. A town of 1,200 people, and they arrested 20 in 2 days. That's what I tell you. It doesn't matter the size of your town. This is not a big city problem. This is a United States of America problem. We have pedophiles and perverts everywhere. They work in our schools. They coach our kids. Unfortunately, some of them are even in our churches. Whatever they can do to cover up being a pervert, that's what they're doing. And it sucks, because honestly, there are some phenomenal school teachers out there that have all the right intentions, with good hearts, that pour their heart and soul into educating our kids and forming and shaping our future generation. and they get overlooked and lost with all the political nonsense, all the violence, the school shootings, the pride flags, the having litter boxes in bathrooms because kids are identifying as cats. They get lost in all of that. Because unfortunately, I'm here to tell you, they're outnumbered. That's why. The majority of and I believe this, the majority of our educators should not be educating our kids. If you were to line up all of our school teachers that we have in our United States, they were in one big line, and you got to cut it down the middle of good versus evil, I have a feeling the evil line would be much longer than that good line would be. That's what I'm saying. So, and I truly firmly believe that. Based on what I see, where I've been, and who I've talked to, and what I know, that's my educated opinion on good versus evil in our public school system. And they're all chasing they're all chasing a state test score. Every public school is chasing the state test score. We got to score in this percentile to get this funding. If we score in this percentile, we get this funding. It's all money driven. And I understand it takes money to operate things, but honestly, we should have set amounts. This is what education costs out of our tax dollars. Our tax dollars should be used to cover these expenses. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter the percentile. We should be, treating each school entity as its own entity and investing in that school using our tax dollars. And stop. We have enough tax dollars. We do. I think Doge has proved that. Doge has found, I can't remember how many billion or trillion, I can't remember what the number is, and unwarranted spending, or what I like to say, illegal spending. I think to spend, whatever it was, $20 million a year and testing rats being transgender. What, are you kidding me? Are you really? This is what we're doing? So I'm not even gonna get into that. The Doge thing. I get too mad. I can't even do a video on it. I get so mad. I get extremely mad. But we have a very, very, very corrupt system in place. Our healthcare system and our public education system is very corrupt. It's about money. It's money driven. I saw, back to my nanobots thing, I saw a U.S. surgeon commented on it saying, if we incorporate this into our practice, this is going to take a big hit on our revenue due to the lack of surgeries that will be performed. So we immediately look at it as, well, we may lose jobs, or we may not make as much, or whatever. It's good. That means you're doing your job. It means you're doing well. I would rather have, this is just a number, this is not the actual, I'm just using an example. I would rather have 100 doctors that made $400,000 a year, and our people are healthy. We get them in and out. Life is good, right? We have issues here, we have issues there, but overall we're good. We got 100 of them that are just phenomenal. Versus 50,000 doctors that all make $500,000 a year, and we are all sick and dying. Our life expectancy is low. Like in Italy, they smoke cigarettes at 3 times the rate than we smoke, and they still outlive us on average. Their average lifespan is like 81, 82 years old. Our average lifespan in the United States is like 77. So they smoke way more than us, but yet they live longer than we do. It's because the food that they're eating is not poison, and their medical system and their healthcare system is designed to get you better and not to take more money from you. That's literally the reason why I went and talked to them. It's pretty easy why. It's a pretty easy thing to identify. We are just so blind here, and they distract us with all these like we want to talk about gay marriage like it's a political issue. Like, what are we doing? Well, why are we talking about gay marriage as a political issue? Why does that have to do with the President of the United States? It's yeah. So, I'm here to tell you, we started homeschooling our son this year, and it's been one of the best things we've ever done. To have the opportunity for him to go with us, to go with me on my business ventures, and to go meet the people that I meet and go engage with them and develop relationships. And, how do you conduct yourself in these professional environments? There's a time and place to have fun. There's a time and place to lock in, and teaching them, how do you give a proper handshake? You look somebody in the eye when you're talking to them. things like this, the little things that public schools don't teach. You know, I had a basketball coach one time teach me how to do a handshake, a basketball coach. So they don't teach that in a public school. They don't teach the importance of networking and how do you network? How do you engage with people in person? How do you build? That is a skill that you have to possess as an adult. You must possess that skill as an adult. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck as a laborer your whole life. You know, if all you can be is the funny, goofy guy and you can't lock in and be professional, go build a network, go stand for something, you're going to be a laborer your whole life. Which brings me to the last thing I want to talk about. So these small towns in America, guys, they're hard to see. They're hard to look at. There's no money. You know, people ask, I get asked this often, you know, people find out I'm from a very small town. I'm like, yeah, there's no way in Hades I'd ever go back. No way. There's no money. And this isn't just this is just small towns in general. If you don't have, you know, one of 5 last names in the town, sorry about it. You know, you're going to be stuck. And if you have one of those 5, 6, I'm just using 5, you understand what I'm saying, that it's a select few. And people in small towns know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't have one of those last names, you're going to be struggling. You just need to get out. And what I found when I left is there's a lot of there's one of 2 things. Either people in small towns are very ignorant on the way the world really works, or they really hold back on what they know and they don't teach anybody in the town or people around them, and so it keeps you down here and them up here. It's one of the 2. I don't know which one it is. I would probably say it's a combination of the 2. I think there's a lot of ignorance in small towns on the way the world really operates, but I also think they do know more than what they lead on, and they don't pass that knowledge on because it's fear for them. They have to have something over you. And I'm one of those people. I will teach you everything that I know. I'm not going to hold anything back. People that have worked underneath me will tell you the same thing. You know, I will give you everything that I know. And if you think you can come do it better and take my job, more power to you. It's my job to show up to work and bust my tail every day to keep my job. And so as long as I'm doing that, I'm not really too worried. I'm going to try to build everybody up to go be a leader that wants to be a leader. And so that's what I did. And that's what I still do it, but I work for myself, so I don't really have people underneath me, but I still try to build people up. The small towns, you don't get that. You don't get that at all. And, you know, you see all the time, oh, it takes a village to raise, you know, a family. It's like, yeah, it does when everybody's broke. You got to use everybody else's money to support your own family. Yeah, it does take a village. But if you leave that, go educate yourself, get some value, get some skills behind you, you can go provide for your own family. It doesn't take a village. It takes mom and dad. You know what I mean? And I understand small towns. And I think small town America at one time was probably a thriving place. It was, you know, I think I grew up in a small town when it was thriving, but I also saw a small town when it wasn't thriving. And I've worked in and around small towns for a long time, and the people there are just different than the people you deal with in the city. They're much more closed-minded. And overall, the conversations just sound different. The biggest thing is the ego. It's the ego piece. And so, you know, my heart hurts, you know, when I drive and I go through all these small towns, they're decimated. And they live without a lot. They live without a lot. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, you go to a bigger city and you can go DoorDash, you can go Uber Eats, you can go Uber, you can dog sit on Rover, you can Instacart. Like, there are so many different ways to go hustle and bustle and go make an extra $400 to $600 a week on top of whatever you're making. You can do that pretty easy. You can't do that in a small town. Like, there's no way. You're stuck at your $15, $16 an hour job, living paycheck to paycheck, little to no savings. And if anything, God forbid, anything happens in your life because you don't have money to cover it, then that's when the village comes in. Hey, I need this. Go fund me. You know, that's where you see it. And, you know, I've been in a few small towns where, you know, it was thriving. It was a very clean community, very well ran. But oftentimes those communities are within 45 minutes of a metro. because a lot of those people work in the metro, make the big city money, then come back and live in their smaller town. But these places that are out in the middle of nowhere, there's nothing. There's nothing there. And then we got, I'm not even going to go down that road, but it's decimated, and it's just sad. It hurts. And I'm here to tell you guys, if you're in a small town, you feel like you're stuck, you feel like you're miserable, you're paycheck to paycheck, you don't have any kind of, you don't have collateral, you don't have assets, you don't have nothing. If something happened to you tomorrow, your car broke, you'd be just up, up creek, you know what I mean? I'm telling you, you got to just muster it up. You've got to do what you got to do just to get out of there. Because once you get out of there and you go to a bigger place that has opportunity, you'll flourish. You'll absolutely flourish. People are going to invest in you. People are going to see that you're trying to do the right things. You're going to surround yourself with people that are going to help take you to the next level. But you're not going to get that where you're at. Where you're at, what you're getting is what you're going to get. That's just kind of the best it's going to be. And it's sad. It really is sad, but that's just the reality of where we're at. That's the life that we're in. And things have changed. We have made this big shift, whether you like it or you don't like it. It doesn't matter whether you like it. This is where we're at. This is where we are as a country, and a lot of things have shifted to the metro areas. You got Google building these massive facilities, Tesla's building these massive facilities, Samsung, and they're not going out in they're not going to the middle of nowhere. They're putting them outside of metro areas. So everything is shifting there. And that's just the world that we live in. And, small towns will always exist. They need to. We have farmers and the farm ground and, people like that they're always going to exist. And we need those people. They're important. They're very important. But, all these other, no. No. So anyways, that's going to wrap it up for me today, guys. I appreciate you watching. I know I went a little bit longer. We talked about, I think 3 or 4 different things today. Appreciate everybody's support. It takes a lot of courage, I can say, to get in front of a camera and speak your mind and put your 2 cents in, so to speak. And, I try really, really hard to, and I know sometimes it sounds like I'm just negative, but I just get upset with small-mindedness, the people that feel like they know it all and they haven't even left the country. People that want to argue with you on things that, they've read on it, but they haven't actually been in it. And, I'll always tell you guys, if I'm speaking on something, I'm educated on the topic. If I'm not educated on the topic, I'm not going to speak on the topic. Something a guy taught me a long time ago is you speak lightly, carry a big stick. Speak softly and carry a big stick. What that means is you don't have to tell everybody what you know. Like I speak on the nanobots. I know a lot more about those nanobots than I'm going to get into, but I don't need to get into it. I just need to say, why aren't we testing it? I don't understand why we're not testing it, but I don't need to go into detail on every little thing I know about nanobots. It's not why I'm here. I do encourage you guys to go look it up, but I don't need to sit here and give you guys a crash course. But you don't have to go spill everything out. You can highlight what you feel and what you know and what you think needs to happen and move on down the road. So that's what I try to do, and I appreciate everybody's support. Don't forget to go like, share, subscribe, all those things. I really, really do appreciate it. And I look forward to talking to you guys on Thursday. That'll be my last session in my studio until I get back, because I leave on Saturday to head back to Topeka for John the Iron Man Cantrell's title fight, which is happening December 13th. So I'm going to fly out there and get with those guys and get that event going and rocking and rolling. I'm super, super, super excited for everything that's coming together for this fight. Massive, massive fight. Big time show, and looking forward to it. But until then, guys, I'll talk to you guys on Thursday. Be disciplined, be strategic, take care of yourself, take care of your family. God bless.